In 1981, 15-year-old Karen Price disappeared from Cardiff, and for nearly a decade, no one knew what had happened. Then, in 1989, builders uncovered a shallow grave, and the mystery of Little Miss Nobody began to unravel. But before we start, make sure you like and subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this. So, get ready as we head to Wales to uncover the tragic case of Karen Price.
July 2nd, 1981, a Thursday evening in Cardiff, the capital city of Wales. Karen Price, 15 years old, left a children's home in the Rumney area of the city. She had been in and out of care for years, a troubled teenager struggling to find her place in the world. She walked out into the summer evening. Nobody saw her again. At first, her disappearance did not raise immediate alarm. Karen was known to run away. She had done it before, stayed with friends, returned after a few days. The staff at the children's home reported her missing, but there was no panic. Teenagers ran away all the time. They usually came back. But Karen did not come back. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Her family grew desperate. Where was she? Police investigated, but found nothing. No sightings, no clues, no body. Karen Price had simply vanished from the streets of Cardiff. The investigation went cold. Files were updated occasionally when new information came in, but there was nothing solid to work with. Karen became another missing person, another face on a poster, another family waiting for answers that never came. Years passed, life moved on, but Karen's family never stopped wondering what happened to their daughter. 8 years later, something happened that would shock Cardiff to its core. It was 1989. A house on Fitzhayman Embankment in the riverside area of Cardiff was being demolished. The property was old, run down, scheduled for destruction to make way for new development. Workers moved in with sledgehammers and machinery, tearing through walls and floors. They broke through the foundations, and there, hidden beneath the concrete floor of the house, they found human remains. A body had been buried there, sealed under the foundation, hidden for years. The discovery stopped work immediately. Police were called, the area was sealed off, forensic teams moved in. The remains were those of a young woman. She had been there a long time. The body was badly decomposed, but enough remained for examination. Pathologists began the slow process of identification. Dental records were checked, missing persons files were reviewed, and then the match came back. The body beneath the house on Fitzhayman Embankment was Karen Price. She had been 15 years old when she disappeared in 1981. She had been murdered and buried beneath that house, hidden so well that nobody knew she was there. For 8 years, people had lived above her grave. Life had gone on in that house while Karen lay dead beneath the floor. The discovery changed everything. This was no longer a missing persons case. This was murder. Police launched a full investigation. They needed to know who had killed Karen Price and why she had been buried in that specific house. Detectives traced the history of the property. Who had lived there in 1981? Who had access to the house? Who would have had the opportunity to bury a body beneath the foundations? The house had changed hands over the years. Multiple people had lived there since Karen's death, but police focused on who was there in the summer of 1981. The investigation was difficult. 8 years had passed, memories faded, people moved away, evidence deteriorated.
Forensic science in 1989 was better than it had been in the early 80s, but it was still limited. DNA testing was in its early stages. The condition of Karen's remains made gathering evidence challenging. Police interviewed people who had known Karen,
They spoke to residents of the children's home. They talked to friends, family, anyone who might have information about where she went the night she disappeared. Slowly, a picture began to form. Karen had been vulnerable. She was young, in care, lacking the protection and stability that other teenagers had. She had associated with older people, moved in circles that put her at risk. She had been involved with individuals who exploited her, used her, treated her as disposable. Two names kept coming up in the investigation: Alan Charlton and Idris Ali. Both men had connections to the house on Fitzhammon Embankment. Both had known Karen. Both had been in Cardiff in 1981. Police brought them in for questioning. Charlton and Ali denied any involvement in Karen's death. They said they knew nothing about it. They had no explanation for why her body was found beneath a house they had connections to. The police suspected them, but suspicion was not enough. They needed evidence. They needed proof. And in 1989, with the state of forensic science and the condition of the remains, that proof was hard to find. The case remained open but unsolved. Karen's family had answers about what happened to her, but no justice. They knew she was dead. They knew she had been murdered, but they did not know who killed her, and nobody was being punished for it. The investigation continued, but progress was slow. Years passed again. Technology advanced. DNA testing became more sophisticated. Cold case units were established across British police forces, dedicated to reviewing old unsolved murders with new scientific techniques. Karen Price's case was one of many that got fresh attention. In 2006, 25 years after Karen disappeared, police made a breakthrough. New forensic analysis of evidence from the scene provided information that had not been available in 1989. Advances in DNA technology allowed scientists to extract and analyze material that earlier techniques could not process. The results pointed to specific individuals. Police arrested Alan Charlton and Idris Ali. Both men were now much older, living different lives, decades removed from the events of 1981. They were charged with the murder of Karen Price. The case went to trial. The prosecution presented the forensic evidence. They showed the connection between the defendants and the house where Karen was buried. They built a timeline of events. They argued that Charlton and Ali had killed Karen and buried her body beneath the foundations to hide what they had done. The defense challenged the evidence. They questioned the reliability of forensic analysis performed on remains that had been buried for 8 years before discovery. They argued that the passage of time made it impossible to prove what had happened beyond reasonable doubt. They portrayed their clients as victims of circumstantial evidence and outdated science. But the jury heard the full story. They heard about a 15-year-old girl who disappeared from care. They heard about her body hidden beneath a house for 8 years. They heard the forensic evidence linking the defendants to the crime. They saw the pattern of behavior, the connections, the opportunities. The jury found both Alan Charlton and Idris Ali guilty of murder. The judge sentenced them both to life in prison. Justice had finally come for Karen Price, more than 25 years after her death.
Karen was 15 years old when she died, a child in care, vulnerable and exploited. She deserved protection. She deserved safety. Instead, she was murdered and buried like rubbish beneath a house in Cardiff. Her family spent 8 years not knowing where she was, then decades waiting for justice. The case exposed failures in the care system. How had Karen been allowed to slip through the cracks? Why was she not better protected? The children's home had reported her missing, but what had been done to find her? Could she have been saved if people had acted differently? It also showed the power of persistence and advancing science. The investigation never truly closed. Files were kept. Evidence was preserved. When technology advanced, police went back to the case with new tools and new techniques. The work of cold case detectives and forensic scientists brought answers that seemed impossible in 1989. Karen Price's murder remains one of Wales's most tragic cases.
a teenager killed and hidden away, forgotten by everyone except her family. Her body lay beneath a house for 8 years while life went on above her. Then decades more passed before her killers faced justice. Alan Charlton and Idris Ali took Karen's life in the summer of 1981. They buried her beneath concrete and walked away. They lived their lives while Karen's family suffered. They thought they had gotten away with murder, but time and science caught up with them. Karen's voice, silent for so long, finally spoke through the evidence, and justice, though delayed by decades, was finally served.
This is the end. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more videos like this.